Demystifying Net Zero workshops in partnership with Energy and Carbon Management. These workshops are part of most of their trade partners. Knowing where and how to obtain finance is critical to make investments in this huge opportunity a reality. So we're focusing today's session on this topic. So thank you for joining us and taking the time out of your very busy days. I'd like to set some housekeeping rules and advise you that today's session is being recorded so that you can share it with your colleagues. I'd like to ask that you all remain on mute unless you're invited to speak. And please can we ask you to ensure that your name is displayed, because it's nice to see who we're talking to. Questions that are being raised in the chat box will be moderated by my colleague Stephen Tulip, and he will ensure that all questions are put to the panel and you do get an answer. I'd like now to welcome our partners, Adam Baker and Georgina Penfold from Energy and Carbon Management. Also our climate expert, Bridget Amoruso, who is leading Make UK's policy work on net zero. We also welcome today Sandy Finley from ABGI, our Make UK partner, who is an industry leader in innovation funding, R&D tax credits and patent box. I would also like to welcome and thank Darren Ivey, who is Senior Engagement Advisor from the Energy Directorate within BEIS, and he will be giving a brief overview of the Industrial Energy Transformation Fund today. Over to you, Bridget.
Thank you, Dawn. So here's the agenda very briefly. Welcome everyone. So we have the introduction and we'll start with a snap poll, a quick snap poll to gauge your experience on obtaining grants and or dealing with tax incentives related to energy efficiency and carbon emissions. So I will run the polls and hopefully you can see that. Can you see that? So we'll give you a few minutes. I won't read the questions out. I think you'll see that there's two blocks of the same questions for the grants and then for the tax incentives. Give you a couple more minutes. Yeah, still people are still voting. Still voting, so we'll just wait. Can't see it go up, so I think maybe we'll end it here. I'll just wait 5 seconds. Yeah, I think most people who wanted to vote have voted now. So I'll end the polling and I will share the results. So, well, it's good news in a way for us that we are running this workshop, because most of you have answered that they don't feel that they are familiar enough with both the grants or the tax incentives. So that's good. So hopefully at the end of the workshop, you'll feel more comfortable. In terms of whether people have applied already or not, so the vast majority haven't applied or dealt with either grants or tax incentives. And if you did apply for grants and tax incentives, most people are unsure whether they have obtained funding, and there's certainly 25% who definitely have said, almost a quarter, who have said that they were not successful, and only 15 who were successful. So that is a little bit of a concern somehow. And then in terms, let's hope that the next question will give us a bit more light. So if you did not apply for funding, what was the reason? So most people are not familiar with the opportunities and they would like to, but have insufficient knowledge. So it's really very clear actually that what is missing, it is knowledge and finding your way probably through the maze of the different funds, whether locally or regionally or nationally. So I'll stop sharing here and we will go back to, oh, sorry. Have I, nope. And so we will go back now to the first section on grant funding with Georgina Penfold and also our guest Darren Ivy and Jenny. So here we go. Georgina, I'm clicking.
Thank you, Brigitte.
Nope. Sorry.
Here we go. No worries. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us here. My name's George. I work, I run a small business called ICON, the Industrial and Commercial Operations Network. And we were set up to provide training and education to energy and environmental managers. And a large part of what we do is basically interpreting Darren. So helping people to understand and access policy, legislation changes, embed good practice, best practice into your business. And we also provide support around understanding what funds are out there and how you can take advantage of it. Now, everything that I'm going to cover today is actually released in a quarterly piece of material that we produce, a funding guide. The next issue is due to come out in the second week of May. So I will ask Adam to circulate that round anyone that's attended today. But the February edition is uploaded in the chat box. So please do feel free to download it and read at your own leisure. All of the hyperlinks to the original websites with application details are all in the guide. So that's far more useful probably than the 20 minutes or so that I've got with you today. But if we go on to the next slide, please, Brigitte. And I will be able to start off by saying we're going to look at national schemes and then some local regional ones. But the big news on national funding schemes is, of course, the Industrial Energy Transformation Fund. And who better to talk to us about that than the people that are running it and overseeing it. So, Darren, over to you.
Thanks, Georgina. So my name's Darren Ivy. I look after the senior engagement for the Industrial Energy Transformation Fund, and so I do a lot of comms and engagement around the fund. I'm also delighted to say that I'm joined today by Jenny McDonnell from the Knowledge Transfer Network. She works very closely with Innovate UK, who is our delivery partner, and she'll be able to assist when we come to the Q&A later on. So if I can move on to the next slide, please. So to sort of like set the scene before I move on to the actual ITF itself, in June 2019, the UK government set a legally binding target to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions from across the UK economy by 2050. Business and industry emissions account for around 25% of the total UK emissions, of which a significant proportion is from manufacturing. So for manufacturing to reach the net zero industrial emissions target, it will need to fall by as much as 90% relative to today's levels. And industry contributes around 170 billion to the UK economy, supporting around 2.2 million jobs. Working towards this target, the government is building a policy framework that will support industry to invest in decarbonisation and take advantage of the opportunities presented by the green industrial revolution. And we are supporting this through a number of funds. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So the one that I'm here to talk to you about is the Industrial Energy Transformation Fund, this is an important fund that was set up to support businesses with high energy costs, with high energy use to cut their bills and reduce carbon emissions. The ITF is designed it will provide funding for capital investments in energy efficiency and deep decarbonisation projects, and the investment will be guided by objectives to reduce energy costs and emissions for industry and to bring down costs and risks of deep decarbonisation technologies by demonstrating them. The funding will support deployment of energy efficiency and deep decarbonisation technologies and demonstration at scale. And this is designed to complement other government programs that offer innovation and early demonstration support, such as the Energy Innovation Programme and the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So basically, the UK government announced £315 million of funding in the 2018 autumn budget, and this funding is available out until 2024. The Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy is managing the Industrial Energy Transformation Fund with £289 million of funding to invest in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. As I mentioned earlier, Innovate UK is our delivery partner for phase one of the fund, and we also work very closely with the knowledge transfer network on the ITF as well. And the Scottish Government will be administering £34 million of funding, which 27 million of which come from the ITF pots for investment in Scotland via its own recently launched Scottish Industrial Energy Transformation Fund. And they recently did their first round of funding for that closed early this year. For the ITF in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, we launched phase one with a summer 2020 competition, which ran from 20th of July until the 20th of October last year. That budget that was for a minimum of £30 million, and it's to be spent on ready to go energy efficiency projects. There was also money available for feasibility and engineering studies for both energy efficiency and deep decarbonisation projects. For around deep decarbonisation deployment, that will be coming online in phase two. We had 39 applications that were deemed to be successful in that competition window, and I'll explain a little bit more about those on the next slide. But however, phase one of the spring 2021, which we launched in February this year, that has a budget of up to £40 million, and this current competition window that we're in now is running from the 8th of March to the 14th of July. This like the window we did last year, this phase one spring 2021 competition is open for energy efficiency deployment projects and for feasibility and engineering studies for both energy efficiency and deep decarbonisation. We will be launching phase two of the fund later this year with the remainder of the funding, and that will be invested in energy efficiency and deep decarbonisation projects, as well as also being available for feasibility and engineering studies as well. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So So in the competition window that we ran last year, which was the summer 2021, we had a range of companies come forward with proposals, and we had provisionally allocated awards to 39 applications totaling around £31 million. Those awards are subject to final due diligence checks that's being carried out at the moment. The project proposals include installation of efficient electric motors and heat pumps to replace natural gas-fired boilers and steam turbines, installation of highly efficient heaters, boilers and furnaces, preparatory engineering studies to replace natural gas with hydrogen as the primary fuel in a number of industry processes and technologies, which include heaters, boilers and furnaces. Process optimization and improved control of processes to increase the energy efficiency of using fans, pumps, variable speed drives, compressors and condensers, and the installation of highly efficient heat recovery technologies to generate electricity for use in manufacturing processes. These applications were also spread right across England, Wales and Northern Ireland, so a number of the projects are in the regions. In Wales and Northern Ireland as well, which is also something that we were hoping to achieve with the fund. If you can move on to the next slide, please. So for eligibility, the ITF is looking to support technologies that are ready to be commercially demonstrated on industrial sites. The ITF is not seeking to fund general research, development or testing of technology solutions. So for energy efficiency, which covers both studies and deployment in the current competition window that we're running, eligible technologies must have been proven to work through successful operation on existing processes and or be qualified through test and demonstration. This corresponds to technology readiness levels 8 and 9. For decarbonisation studies, eligible technologies must either have been proven to work through successful operations and or be qualified through test and demonstration, or currently at a prototype stage, or requires demonstration of an actual system prototype in an operational environment. This corresponds to technology readiness levels 7, 8 and 9. All eligibility rules for both strands of the recent phase 1 competition, which is deployment and studies, can be found online, and I'll provide information to you on that later on. And also for specific questions about eligibility for any proposals, you please use Innovate UK's eligibility screening service or attend one of our stakeholder clinics or upcoming events, which I'll also be giving more information about shortly. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So we offer a range of support services to stakeholders around the fund. Obviously, we're here to support you, and we want to make sure that highly qualified proposals are successful in the application process. If you have any doubts or questions about your eligibility, please do get in touch. We can work with you to understand whether the proposal fits the scope of the competition and put you on the right track. We also advise getting in touch with applicant support services early, as these may get busy towards the end of the window, which closes on the 14th of July. And as I mentioned, a couple of the services that we run with this. So Innovate UK has a customer support service which has a telephone number and an email service. We also have an application support service which is run by Jenny at KTN. And also, we also have mechanisms for you to be able to contact BAYS directly if you'd like to do so. If you can move on to the next slide, please. So on this slide, I'm just giving you a couple, some of the crucial links to find out more information about the Industrial Energy Transformation Fund, and also to be able to get in contact with us. So the first link is to our ITF competition page. This is on gov.uk, and it contains the links to all the guidance, to all the supporting documents. It provides also more information about the fund itself, and also contact details to be able to get in touch with BAYS, KTN, and also Innovate UK. It also contains the detailed documentation around eligibility, application, the application support services, and also the project innovation calculator as well, to help you prepare your bids. The second The second one is for the eligibility checker. This is a service that Innovate UK runs, and we'll be able to provide you with information to make sure that your business and your bid are eligible. And the other items are around events and services, additional services that we run. So throughout this competition window, we are running fortnightly stakeholder clinics. We've had 3 already that have been very well attended, and we've also got a number of stakeholders booked on the later ones in this window. The next one is due to be held on the 4th of May. So this link will take you through to the registration site to be able to register for our stakeholder clinics. If you'd like to attend those, and at the clinic, you'll be able to talk directly to representatives from BEIS, Innovate UK and KTN to be able to discuss any proposals that you have, and we can provide assistance to you. We recently launched the virtual technology marketplace, which this is designed to enable industrial site owners and manufacturers to be able to view videos from technology providers and other organisations, to potentially make new contacts and forge partnerships, to be able to bid to the ITF as well. All the videos on the technology marketplace are compatible to the fund, and we're looking to upload another lot of videos shortly. The first link for the virtual technology marketplace will take you through to the registration site, and the second link will take you through to the video uploading panel if you'd like to upload a video. And also with Innovate UK and KTN, we will also shortly be running another industrial energy transformation fund stakeholder briefing event on the 8th of June. The briefing event will go into a lot more detail. So we'll provide detailed information around eligibility, the application service, the guidance, the fund itself, and also if you decide you'd like to attend, you'll be able to talk directly to BEIS, Innovate UK and KTN officials, both at the webinar itself, and then also after the webinar, you can book one-to-one slots with us if you'd like to discuss your projects with us further. Next slide. Thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll receive bids from you very soon.
Thank you, Darren. And now we'll have
back to me.
Yeah, thank you, Georgina. We'll just have an FAQ just after Georgina has finished this section.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Brigitte. And thank you very much, Darren, as well. And for anyone that's had their interest piqued by that, I do strongly advise that you do get in touch with Darren and his team. The guys at BEIS are very, very helpful and really will sort of work with you to make sure that you get an effective application put together. I wanted to take a few moments just to talk about some other things that are happening. I was asked to look at some national ones, and then just a pin shot of ones that are happening more on a regional level, covering various different regions. So the first one to really sort of make people aware of is the Industrial Energy Efficiency Accelerator. So this is all part of the same kind of government drive to encourage net zero development amongst industrial organisations, that's connected with the IETF and investment in hydrogen and carbon capture and lots of other things. But if we look at where we're expecting industrial emissions reductions to come from, around about 41% of the anticipated contribution to net zero from the industrial sector is expected to come purely from the deployment of efficient and best available technologies. So investing in efficiency is really, really important, not just for you as a sort of financial and operational perspective, but also for the country from an environmental one. The Energy Efficiency Accelerator has been set up really to try and leverage private sector investment coming in to help resource efficient technologies, processes, to strengthen supply chains and to overcome the barriers either real or perceived, that are in place amongst manufacturing sector for installing low carbon innovation and efficient technology processes. That isn't open yet. It's £10 million, which isn't a huge pot, but it is there. It will open later this year. We're going to have some more information coming out on that, I expect, over the summer. The first competition is due to open in August. Darren and his colleagues, I'm sure, will have much more detail on what's happening behind the scenes than I do, but do keep your eye out for that if you think that that might be a good fit, or if IETF isn't right for you. Next slide, please, Brigitte. The other one that could be of interest is heat networks. Now, you've probably come across various sort of funds that have been available around heat decarbonisation, waste heat recovery fund, and these all kind of start to cycle around. But HNIP is due to close later this year. So if you are looking at connecting 2 or more buildings to a centralised heating system, this could be worth a look. They do have to be, there does have to be funding put in from the end user. So an HNIP award can be up to a maximum of 49% of the capital expenditure incurred for the construction of the project. And projects are not recommended to aim at the full 49%. They do kind of say in the guidance, if you want to get your funding application approved, then lower funding requests are likely to score better. Cheeky monkeys. But there is both a grant scheme and a loan scheme available there. And if it's something that you're going to do and you're going to do anyway, it could well be worth a look. So do look into that. Next slide, please, Brigitte. The other one to draw your attention to, not really specific to energy efficiency, but worth mentioning, Innovate UK. In fact, full stop, I recommend, if you are interested in funding, go on to Innovate UK's website, and they have a really fantastic search function. You can filter out by sector. There's all sorts of funding available, specific for the medical industry, specific for fishing, specific to lots going on around automotive supply chain at the moment, and organisations, if you're playing any part in manufacturing widgets, gadgets, batteries, anything that can contribute to those bigger picture net zero supply chains, have a look, because you might be able to get something. But in particular, the Innovate UK, the SMART grants, are investing in what they are calling game-changing and commercially viable innovative ideas. They've got 2 kind of pots going for short projects and longer projects. So the shorter projects are between sort of 6 to 18 months and up to a maximum of 500k. They can be either a single organisation or a collaborative approach, and the longer ones up to a maximum of 36-month project and £2 million project cost. They have to be collaborative, so it would have to be you working with your suppliers or your buyers or other organisations, perhaps within a sector. I know that you do start to get kind of commercial issues that have to be considered, and protection of intellectual property. But if you are in a very collaborative sector and you want to work together on a particular kind of process efficiency or new idea, do look into that. It is not specific to energy efficiency, but anything that contributes to the wider net zero agenda is likely to do quite well. Next slide, please, Brigitte. And then, yes, check out the sector-specific schemes. I think there's a sentence missing from this one. But like I said, anything that contributes to low carbon heating, electrification of vehicles, anything that's in the net zero supply chain, check out Innovate UK. Check out gov.uk, keep your ears and eyes open through some of the other E&CM workshops and policy engagement that Make UK are doing, because you'll be surprised what comes around from time to time, and is worth always a bid if you want to see if you can get some extra funds in the pot. The next thing I was asked to do is just a very quick round of what might be available on more of a regional scale. The one thing we are aware of with schemes like the ITF, brilliant if you've got a big project, but if you're quite a small manufacturer, or you're looking to do projects that are going to contribute to energy efficiency and decarbonisation, but are not ever going to hit the spend levels required for IETF or similar, then maybe it's worth looking to see if there's anything happening in your area. So we'll go top to bottom, quick whistle-stop tour around the country. Thank you, Brigitte. And starting with Scotland, there's actually a lot happening in Scotland at the moment. And all I've done with these slides is pick out one or two in each region that I think is interesting. But do have a look at the document and do talk to everybody afterwards. One worth mentioning is the Scottish enterprise funding. This is aimed at supporting businesses to create green jobs, so either employment that relates directly into the transition to net zero, or facilitating the transition of a job from non-green to green. So if you've got kind of processes going on already and you're wanting to try to shift your entire business to being more involved in the green economy, the Scottish Government are very keen to support you with that. That will open in a couple of weeks' time on the 18th of May, and the first call runs until the 15th of June. So it's only open for a month, but it is worth looking at. That will support between 10 and 50% of a project cost, depending on company size, location, and the activities that you're up to. Scotland also has an IETF. It's got its own version. That is, as far as I'm aware, closed at the moment, but I'm sure Make UK will keep Scottish subscribers informed of any future rounds. Next slide, please. Yes, so the Marine Fund Scotland, this is contributing to the blue economy. It opened yesterday, which is the main reason why I've thrown it in. Blue economy is anything to do with either the sea or coastal regions. So if you're in a coastal region in Scotland, doing anything that is helping support those regions that historically are starting to become quite deprived in some geographic regions with the decline of fishing and the likes, shipbuilding, or you're working directly in and around the marine environment, do check that out via gov.scot and Marine and Fisheries. Into Yorkshire and the Northeast. Two things that I've pulled out in particular for this region. The Northeast local authorities have collaborated to create what they call their BEST team, the Business Energy Saving Team. You can go and get energy audits and grants if you are located in Gateshead, Newcastle, North Tyneside, Northumberland or Sunderland. Northumberland, yeah, and projects that can apply for that would include both normal energy efficiency, sort of space heating, lighting, that, but also machinery and equipment improvements. They've also got a business energy efficiency project which runs very similar in Durham. And in the Yorkshire region, probably the most interesting thing at the moment is everything that's happening in and around the Humber side. If you're located in that region, just check out Invest Humber, because there is a wealth of support through the North East Lincolnshire local authority and through Hull and Humberside, all supporting kind of clean energy and economic stability in Humberside, full stop. Next slide, please, Brigitte. Yep, skip across and over to Wales and the Northwest. Wales have got some funds available from the Carbon Trust at the moment. These are loans, sadly not grants, but they are interest free, so worth having a look, up to a maximum of £20,000. The Carbon Trust will work with you and provide a bit of support around that as well. So it's worth taking a little look at. As is, if you're in either the Manchester or the Liverpool city regions, what's happening in the city region. The city regions, again, because they are very invested in making sure that their region is economically strong, they tend to be quite good at putting things together and supporting local businesses. So, so do talk to them. In particular, there is in Greater Manchester Business Growth Hub, which has an energy efficiency grant going around at the moment. And in the Liverpool city region, there is what they call the Future Energy Programme. That is a 30% grant contributing up to £7,500 to help fund the cost of external expertise in developing more efficient product systems or processes. So it's a nice little way to help get some short-term extra assistance into your business to figure these things out. Next slide, please. Down the country into the East Midlands, there's quite a lot happening in this region, as there is in the Southwest as well. So again, I've only kind of picked things out at random. Leicestershire has got some quite interesting things going on through their Green Bell campaign, which will fund up to £7,000 or 50% of your project cost. And then in the three counties, so Bucks, Berks and Herts, there are some match funded grants available, which cover, and they especially kind of state in the guidance that they are particularly interested in things like variable speed drive improvements, extraction systems, compressors. So at that kind of spend level, you're looking at fairly modest projects, but if you're an SME manufacturer in these regions, check them out. Worcestershire, Shropshire and Herefordshire also have a business energy efficiency project running, which is much like the one that I've already explained for the Northeast. Next slide, please, Brigitte. And we're coming down to the southeast of England. Now, all of the south of England is pretty active. There's particularly a lot going on in and around Sussex. So if you're in Sussex, do have a look at the funding guide and do click on all the hyperlinks and see what you can get. The main one in this region is low case, so low carbon across the southeast. Which will give you a grant of up to £20,000 and 40% of project cost. So that's quite a nice chunk of cash potentially available there. There's also energy grants available specific to East Sussex and specific to Dover, as well as a range of other things sort of happening on a more regional, on a more modest scale. Finally, into the southwest. And in the southwest, you are spoiled for choice. There is absolutely loads happening, and a lot of it is already being really well taken up. Businesses in this region just seem to be really tuned in to the whole net zero agenda, and in Gloucestershire in particular, they are on to a waiting list only for support through their main scheme, which is Target 2030. Now, it's not surprising, it's a very generous scheme, up to £250,000 and 40% of the project costs, and they will support you with free energy audits to help you identify projects in the first place. Even though it's a waiting list only, they are still encouraging people to get applications in, because some of the projects that they've pre-approved may not come through, but also if they know that they've got this bank of knowledge of who's out there and what do they want, it enables the council to make the case for more funding to support you. So don't be shy just because you think, oh, it's everyone's got in there first. Still put your hand in the ring, because you might be higher up the priority list next time round. Similar sort of scheme in Dorset, low carbon Dorset. That one, the projects are open to apply into now, but they have to be completed by the end of December next year. With a lot of these things, there will, as you start to dig into things, start to be time bounds put on the use of the funding. So you can't just get a grant approved and then sit on the money for 3 years, unfortunately. So do make sure that you're talking to the scheme operator and understanding sort of how that will work for you. We'll go on to the next slide, getting to the end of my sort of section. Wanted to do a quick kind of reminder / shout out around environmental levies. Environmental levies being costs that are added to your energy bill. You may or may not be aware of this, but a lot of costs get passed through to us through our energy bills, and these are used to fund either the development of renewable energy around the country, or the protection of our network security. So making sure that we've got capacity available to respond, particularly in those long, dark winter nights when demand is very high and all your solar generation is off. This is becoming more and more impactful as we're starting as a nation to divest away from fossil fueled generation, which means that these cost items are becoming more and more significant, and they are really important for you to start to kind of get your head around, either in-house with an energy manager or by talking to Adam Baker and his colleagues at ENCM, who can help to explain these for you and make sure that you're on a buying strategy for your energy that's efficient and works for you. But the good news is that for certain industries, you can actually get exemptions or compensation towards some of these costs. Now, I'm not going to list out exactly what industries, because it's quite a long list, and it's done by the NACE code. There are a couple of tests that you have to go through. So in order to satisfy the requirement for eligibility, you need to show that your electricity costs amount to 20% or more of your gross added value. And you have to be a viable business, so you can't be kind of in difficulty. But it is worth getting a look at. The other thing I'd make, and I know we've got a session on tax, is it's not the same as tax relief. So if you've already had a lot of work done around sort of R&D, around sort of tax credits, this is something that may or may not have been picked up on. And even if it has been picked up on, we sometimes find with things like climate change agreement, environmental levy exemptions, that they're not always processed properly if you haven't had that energy expertise put in. So do talk to an energy specialist. The other thing that is worth mentioning to your energy team, if you're going through this process of checking your bills and what you're paying and is it right and can we get anything back, is carrying out historic audits of what you've paid in the past and scraping back any overpayments that you may have made. You'd be surprised at how often things can be calculated incorrectly by your network operator or your supplier. So check things like that out and see if there's anything to be brought back there. The final thing to mention before I wrap up is, whilst it's always good to get money off or to get money in, what we also want to do is make sure that if we have the ability, we're running our plant effectively in a way that is either reducing our energy bills or even turning our energy bills into a source of income. Brigitte, can we go forward 2 slides, please? All right. So I'm not going to go through this in detail. It's a whole other session by itself. But if you have the ability to control what you are using when you're using it. So if you have production lines that can be turned off either at a moment's notice or with like 4 hours notice, or other kind of plants that either generating plants that can be switched on, or large energy consuming plants that can be switched off in response to the fluctuations of supply and demand at a national level, then there's lots of opportunity for you to engage in what we call demand side flexibility. Basically, this is the consumer providing flexibility in their usage patterns that is helpful to National Grid and the district network operators, and you can get paid for this. Again, that's a big topic. It gets very technical and would take up the full 2 hours by itself. So I'm going to leave that there for people to sort of have a think about and a read of the slide pack. But again, speak to Adam and the team at ENCM if you're even slightly interested in that, because they can have a look and see whether your portfolio, your estate is likely to be a secret source of income. So final slide then, Brigitte, just to let you know that in addition to the funding guide that I've shared and which Brigitte and Stephen will circulate kind of afterwards, there's a whole load of other information available via the Icon app, which is the icon.app. We are a subscription-based service, but we're very reasonable. Or even better, if you're signing up to the ENCM Industrial Energy Toolkit that is available exclusively to Make UK partners, then you can get more information out there. Icon work very closely with ENCM, so if you become, if you're talking to them, you can always lean on us for additional sort of support and training and education. So that's me done. Happy to take any questions.
Well, Georgina, thank you very much. And I think with this, we will exactly open the first Q&A session, which will cover not only your very interesting section, but also, of course, the EITF and Darren's presentation. So please, any questions that you may have, please.
Is it time to ask Stephen if you've got anything in the chat that needs raising?
Yeah, not too many. We've had a couple come through though. So Andy has asked, are there no funding schemes in the West Midlands?
Oh, sorry, West Midlands. Yeah, there is one that I'm aware of, and that is specific to Coventry and Warwickshire. So I'm afraid if you're not in that part of the West Midlands, then I don't know of anything at the moment. But that doesn't mean there's no hope, because these things kind of come around. The energy efficiency grants, they are grants for Coventry and Warwickshire, are available for SMEs up to £50,000 and 40% of the cost of installing energy efficiency measures. And that, again, just like the Bucks, Sparks and Hearts, includes your lighting, heating, but it also includes things like compressors, ventilation, renewables as well. For that one, they're not always included. And you can also get support through that from Warwickshire University, who are a really great organisation. Actually, they do a lot of research around particularly sort of automotive and battery technologies, but the wider kind of low carbon technology generation, if you're in that low carbon product manufacturing sector.
I've had another question that says, are there still enhanced capital allowances for LED installs, and do they exist for solar panels too?
So I think our next speaker might be a better one to take those conversations. I think enhanced capital allowances are changing. The technology, the energy technology list it still exists, but it's not used specifically for driving financial reward anymore. However, we have spoken with Make UK previously about the announcement in the budget of the super award, I can't remember the exact word that Rishi Sunak used, but super allowances for technology and plant, which does
Super.
Thank you, Brigitte. Well done. super deductions. And yeah, so that is very much out and about at the moment. We would encourage organisations to apply for their ECAs, their super deducted ECAs, 130% of your cost, whether that be for plant machinery or other technologies.
Thank you. And next question, can you make a claim for projects that were completed in early 2021, or is it just for future projects?
As far as I'm aware, most of the funding schemes that are available will be forward-looking, so not retrospective. I don't know whether Darren would change anything with that from a BAYS perspective, but I think usually you'd be lucky to get grant funding retrospectively.
Thank you. And from a question from earlier on that I've just spotted when we were talking about I got the acronym wrong, IETF. How many applications have there been in total so far?
We can't say how many we had in total for phase 1, but I can say that everything that was in scope was successful or went on to the due diligence checks.
Thank you. And that's it for the chat box, unless there's anything else anyone wants to put in.
Happy for anybody to join in if they've got something to add or create more of a discussion about.
Yes, I have one quick question for Darren. When is the next window going to open in autumn? Do you know already?
We're still looking at a suitable time to launch phase 2 of the funds, but when this competition window closes and the next one opens, it will be a phase 2 competition window.
Just also wanted to say that we're promoting the EITF, particularly. So Darren is sending us a lot of promotional material. So we're usually putting that through our weekly newsletter for Make UK members. And also that if you have, for those who have tried any of these funds, but particularly the IETF, sorry, please, and have had difficulties, please don't hesitate to send us, myself or Dawn, your issues, because we are feeding them back to Darren's team, and hopefully they can take them into account for the next competition. So it's really important for us if you do have, if you've had that, some experiences and difficulties.
Can I also say, Darren mentioned we have the briefing event on the 8th of June, and as well as going through the scope of the competition, we're also going to be inviting 4 of the projects that were funded in phase 1 to present a case study on their technology, on the project they intend to deploy. So that might give you some good ideas of what you can do on your site as well.
Excellent. I think then if that's that, are we now going straight over to Sandy Finley from ABGI?
Hi Dawn, how are you doing?
Really well, and we're looking forward to hearing how you're going to incentivise us all.
Good. Could I just say, I didn't want to interrupt Georgina, but the question that Stephen asked about LED installs and solar panels, LED installs qualify for 50% first year allowances under the new arrangements that the Chancellor introduced in April. And solar panels won't qualify for enhanced capital allowances, but they do qualify as part of your annual investment allowance, and you can use that super enhancement of 130% on the cost of purchasing and installing solar panels now. So just a bit there. And thanks for that, Georgina. I will be in touch later because I was interested in the slide you had on energy intensive industries. I think that could impact on some of the R&D claims we work on. Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Sandy Finley from ABGI. I want to take 15 to 20 minutes just to chat about some tax incentives in relation to net zero projects. Next slide, please, Brigitte. that's who we are. EBGI, we're an international consulting group. We work with our clients to help accelerate innovation activity. We do that by helping clients identify and secure appropriate forms of funding. Those forms would generally take three different types. Grant funding, so we regularly work with clients on proposals for Innovate UK and European funding. We also work on tax incentives, in particular R&D tax relief, capital allowances and patent box. And then when appropriate, we have a number of partners in the UK who help us to put commercial funds into companies. Those commercial funds are generally around the outcomes of innovation activity. So it's loans secured against intellectual property or software asset or revenue streams coming from innovative projects. So that's enough about us. Next slide, please, Brigitte. Great. The first thing I wanted to touch on today was the capital allowances scheme, because I think some of the changes made in the last budget will have impact on the spend, particularly in relation to the Industrial Energy Transformation Fund, but a number of the other smaller regional funds that Georgina touched upon. So the first thing to say is that in the budget in March, the Chancellor extended the £1 million, back a slide, please, sorry. The Chancellor extended the availability of the £1 million annual investment allowance through till December 2021. This means at the moment, and for the next 8 months, companies can claim up to £1 million of their capital allowance in the year of investment. On top of that, the Chancellor has also introduced the 130% super enhancement. That means on qualifying expenditure for main pool assets, I'll go into what main pool assets in a minute. On main pool assets, if you spend £100,000 for the next 2 years, you can claim tax relief on £130,000. And that £130,000 this year for the next 8 months would qualify as part of your £1 million annual investment allowance. So if you have plans to make investments and some of them fall into early next year, it's certainly worthwhile looking at accelerating those if you can into this year to take fuller advantage of that extended EIA. I have to also say at the moment, there are no indications that the government are intending to extend that £1 million EIA into 2022, but they have extended it now 3 times in the last couple of years, so it may well extend again. So the other part to capital allowances that you need to be aware of is that the loss relief carryback period has been extended from 1 year to 3 years. So we can now look at losses over the last 3 years and we can claim relief against those against current, or we can offset them against current profitability, which again is an interesting tax incentive. The 130% super enhancement is purely against main pool assets. Next slide, please, Brigitte. Main pool assets would include everything that you buy in association with your property. So buildings, doors, gates, shutters, land structures such as bridges or roads. Interestingly enough, solar panels qualify as part of that main pool asset. So you can claim 130% super enhancement on the cost of purchasing and installing solar panels. The second area that's received special interest this year, or special attention, has been special rate pool assets. Brigitte, have we stopped sharing the slides? Is it just me that can't see them? Special rate pool assets for the next 2 years companies can claim 50%.
Apologies, I lost the slide. So
right.
yeah, sorry, Carrie.
I'll keep talking. I'll let you find them. I know what's on them, don't worry. Yes, special rate pool assets would include air conditioning, cooling equipment, heating, lighting equipment, external solar shading would count as well, and electric vehicles in particular. If they don't qualify as an industrial or commercial vehicle, then you can claim 50% of the cost of acquisition, whether it's new or second-hand, in the first year of acquisition. So it's worthwhile exploring any major investments you're looking to make. So even if you have a project, an energy project, which involves significant capital investment, and you're receiving grant funding, IETF, or one of the regional funds, you also need to be aware of those capital allowance provisions, and you need to balance them. One thing I should say is that you're not allowed to claim capital allowances against the grant element of your acquisitions. So it's net capital expenditure less the grant element. And again, I would advise you to seek specialist advice either from your accountant or your tax advisor before you commit to taking a grant which supports capital expenditure, and review whether the grant support is more effective for the company against the capital allowance expenditure. So that's the capital allowances element dealt with. There we go. Yeah, special rate pool assets. Next slide, Brigitte. Great stuff. The second area I want to cover today is R&D tax relief, because I'm conscious that not all of the net zero projects that companies will be undertaking will necessarily be capital intensive. There may be elements of technical risk or technical challenge which qualify for R&D tax relief rather than capital allowance. So I always start from the premise that everybody knows nothing about R&D tax relief. What is it? It's a government incentive in the UK to encourage companies to advance the baseline of industry or technology. It's awarded for addressing technical uncertainty, and I'll go into that in a minute. If you're an SME and you're in profit, you can expect to receive 25% net relief on all your expenditure. For every £1 you spend on R&D activities, you'll receive an additional 24.7% relief against taxes. Or if you're in a loss-making position and can surrender losses, you can receive up to 33.35% cash back. Not nearly as attractive for large companies. Companies claiming under the RDEC scheme, which tend to be large companies, or SMEs which have received state aid, and the state aid has directly impacted upon your R&D project, you'll receive 10.5% tax relief or cash back if you're in a loss-making position. Next slide, Brigitte. Okay, why do we, what qualifies for R&D tax relief and what do we get relief on? 3 key criteria that HMRC have to be convinced of. First thing is that the project seeking an advance in science or technology. I'll go into that in a bit more detail at the next slide. Then the project needs to be subject to scientific or technological uncertainty. That would be any technical challenge which has no existing or obvious solution, and where a competent professional deems that the project requires some systematic research and investigation to come up with a solution. So the buying of capital equipment and installing it in itself doesn't qualify for R&D tax relief, but if installing capital equipment involves engineering challenges which have no existing solution, then you may well qualify for R&D tax relief on those parts. And the third thing is that the R&D work needs to be undertaken by a competent professional. So eligible costs include The major part of most R&D tax relief projects tend to be the staffing costs. It's people who do R&D generally. Raw materials also qualify, particularly in relation to process innovation projects. Raw materials can be a significant element. Software, if companies are buying particular types of software to drive new processes or to manage new equipment, to create automated or remotely controlled equipment and processes, then often the software itself can qualify for R&D tax relief. Costs for subcontractors or externally provided workers, where those individuals are providing additional hands which aren't available within the company to undertake the R&D. So those are the definitions HMRC use. We'll spend some time now looking at what technological uncertainties or scientific uncertainties might look like. Next slide, Brigitte. Usually when I do a talk around R&D tax relief, most of the time we're looking at product development or product enhancement. I think in relation to net zero projects and energy efficiency or CO2 reduction projects, we're really looking at process improvement projects. And as a practice heavily involved in R&D tax relief, over the last 8 years in particular, we have found that process innovation projects have taken up an increasing part of the eligible spend in companies. So any project aimed at reducing environmental impact, so waste treatment, waste minimization, or waste elimination projects often involve technical challenges which don't have an existing solution at the moment. That may involve experimenting with different types of waste treatment or manipulation of waste in itself. And we need to try different processes to work out which of the end results has minimum impact or least impact on the environment. It may be energy reduction projects. So the buying of energy efficient equipment in itself is not the end game. Often we buy the equipment and then we have problems installing that. So it may be around linking solar panels back into our mains supply of electricity, or it may be managing the loading of solar panel energy against other forms. It may be wiring or integrating other forms of renewable energy, such as energy coming from waste incineration projects into the main grid. Reducing raw material costs or consumptions, or finding new raw materials themselves. If there are raw materials which actually reduce the energy requirements or reduce CO2 emissions as a result of changed processing, those projects often involve areas of experimentation and systematic research. So all of those types of projects will have an element of R&D. Some will be more R&D intensive than others. Next slide, Brigitte. And making manufacturing processes faster or more efficient and safer. So again, eliminating unnecessary processes. We often find that when companies change process materials as part of a bigger project, that's done to reduce energy consumption. So moving from oil-based colors to water-based colors impacts on the curing processes used. That often reduces the electricity used. But eliminating the processing or reducing the processing times and the curing times, the exposure to curing lights, can be an experimental process. And that will qualify for R&D tax relief. And finally, another one to touch on is replacing of hazardous materials. So I know that in terms of, particularly in terms of galvanizing processes manufacturing, there's been a lot of work done in the last 10 years in removing things like lead from baths or chromium-6 because chromium-6 is particularly carcinogenic, and when it gets into the water stream can have some significant impacts on the environment. So the replacing of these raw materials in a metal processing process has implications, because the replacement from chromium-6 is chromium-4. It's not nearly as protective or as sticky as chromium-6 is, and that creates more requirement for companies to do some R&D. So when you're looking at energy efficient projects, when you're looking at projects aimed at reducing the energy requirements in your business, be aware of all the incidental or secondary challenges that those projects raise for you as a business, because those are the bits that you want to come back and claim R&D tax relief on. Next slide, please. Thank you, Brigitte. And very, very final, I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes on this. If we have any companies who are looking at energy transformation projects that could result in formalized IP in the form of a patent, or if your company is looking to acquire an exclusive license for an existing technology and use that commercially, companies should be aware of the patent box scheme. So patent box is available for companies who register a patent in the UK Patent Office or the European Patent Office. It gives you a 10% corporation tax rate against all profits directly associated with the commercialization of that patent for the life of the patent. If you're using if you're acquiring an exclusive license on somebody else's technology, and you are taking on responsibility for maintaining that technology and policing it, then again, you will qualify for patent box. So that would be the costs involved, or sorry, the profits involved would be profits coming directly from sales of the product or sales of components, profits coming from the sale of a license or the royalties associated with that license, and any fees or fines from patent infringements. So if you're involved in an energy or a waste minimization or an environmental impact project that generates formal IP and you're looking to patent that, be aware of patent box and speak to, again, it would be your tax advisor or your accountant. And one thing to keep in mind, if you are pursuing patents, if you mention to the UK Patent Office that you're hoping to take advantage of patent box, they will speed up the patent grant process. So it's a good way of pushing patents through quicker, as they will if you tell them your patent has a positive environmental impact. I think that's all I have to say at the moment, Brigitte. Thank you
very much, Sandy, and apologies for the slides there. The slides
don't worry about it.
Had a life of its own. So thank you. No, that's really great. So we come on to now the second Q&A session. So if you have any questions for Sandy.
Yeah, there's nothing in the chat so far. Someone's asked if we'll share a recording of this after the event, and yes, we will. But yeah, no questions so far.
No worries.
Or comments?
Stephen, I see one there from Kevin Maw asking if he can make a claim for projects that were completed earlier than 2021.
Yeah, so I think Georgina covered that earlier.
Okay, that's fine.
Well. But Sandy, it'd be good to have your take on that as well, actually. So yeah, please do answer that one.
It would be possible to claim R&D tax relief on those. R&D tax relief you can claim up to 2 years retrospectively. So if you're, just because it makes it easier for me, if your tax year ends, if your financial year ends in March, you can still claim for years ending March 2021 and March 2020, which means we can claim relief on costs as far back as April 2019. If your year end is December, we can still claim for years ending December 20 and December 19. So yeah, there's potential there to claim for previous projects, definitely.
And I'm going to answer this next one for you, Sandy. Anna has asked, is it possible to set up a call? And yes, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, no problem at all, Anna. You'll get my details at the end of the webinar.
Okay, fantastic. I think if we're actually spot on time, actually, we're probably a minute or so ahead. So can we jump straight into the snap poll?
Yes.
Just to get some questions asked, and let's take it from there.
So let me see. Here we go. So I am, let's see, hopefully. Right, I'm launching these 2 second polls. It's really to find whether this session has been useful for you. Oops, it's gone. So it's running. We still got 59 participants, so that's good. So if, are you able to vote? Yes, yes, okay, I can see the results coming up now.
Okay, good amount of people are actually filling in the questions, which is good.
Give it another half a minute. I think it's slowing down. I think lots of people have logged off. But yeah, so I think I'll end it there because it's stopped. Voting has stopped. So I'm going to share the results. So yes, so it's interesting that for the grants, people who find themselves much more confident to find the grants and the tax incentives for their needs. So that's good, both for the grants and the tax. So excellent. That means the webinar has been useful. But then as to applying for themselves for the funding or the tax incentives, so more, yes, of course. So there's quite a significant proportion who would need help for grants and I guess, yeah, incentives as well. So it's a mixed bag, but I think it's half more or less for each. So that's interesting. And then finally, well, just to say really that it's good to see that you've got more confidence, but of course, please don't hesitate. We've got our partner consultancies here, specialists, and they are there. They can give you a no obligation consultation. So please, if you change your minds or those who would like to, please, we will provide the details and you know where to come. So that's it. I think with that, I will stop sharing the results Dawn, and I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, unless Adam, George or Sandy have anything additional to say, I'd just like to thank everybody who's joined us today. I know everyone's very, very busy, but it's very important that you meet people from the sector who have got such great offers of help and support out there. I found it really beneficial. I'll be certainly talking to the members about what's available, having a good understanding. So thank you, Darren from the Energy Directorate, Adam and George from Energy and Carbon Management, and Sandy from ABGI. I think it was absolutely fascinating what you had to say. You know, some of the incentives about the processing was, you know, that was really, really, really useful stuff. Just a reminder to everybody that the next workshop is in this series is on Wednesday, the 26th of May at 1 p.m. and that will focus on supply chain and collaboration. Be very interesting, I'm sure. I will be sending out to those of you who have said yes. I'll make a lot of introductions. We will send out all of the information from today, including slides to members and to also the video link. This will get uploaded. It'll be within the next 24 hours. I'll get that all across to you. But if anybody else would like to say anything, I think that's about it from me. No, everybody sort of. Thank you, Andy. Mark, yeah, all very good. Nobody got anything else to add in there? It's great. And goodbye, and thank you for joining.
Thanks very much for setting up, Dawn. Thanks, Brigitte.
Thank you to
I don't
all
know
speakers.
if you want to, if the speakers want to hang back for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, no worries.